All right, let's get started then. Just so we get a little bit of the layout. Welcome everybody to Is It Over? Whether or not to continue or end my relationship. My name's Dawn Bennett, and I'll be your facilitator today. Just to kind of give you a little bit of what we're going to do, stay till the end. I'm going to offer you some resources, some eventual new classes, and I really want to make sure that everyone can see all of the tools and the resources that are going to be available to you, and also how to access this video again in case you want to watch it a second time. And for those of you that are watching it on the replay and couldn't make it to the live meeting, welcome as well. I'm so glad to have you. Good evening. So today we're going to share the 7 keys or layers to understanding what's causing you to consider ending your relationship. And so just some housekeeping, go ahead and make sure that you have a pen and a paper, grab some water. We're going to go through a lot of information really quick. I've hidden all of the thumbnails or all the videos for all of you that are on this call, so that way they won't be popping up. And at the end, I'll actually be shutting down the recording, so that way you can ask questions live. Otherwise, feel free to pop things into the chat, questions into the chat as you have them, and engage as much as you need. So the 7 keys, these are going to seem really, really simple, but they have a depth to them that the average person doesn't really tap into. So I'm really excited to share this. My mentors, Craig Weiner and Alina Frank, who are master EFT trainers and who've helped people for years, shared these layers with me. And so now I'm sharing them with my clients. I've used them myself, and there's a lot of success stories of people who have really used these tools to facilitate making their relationships better, or to find a way to leave their relationships in a really gentle, strong, and positive way. So before we get into it, I just want to do a sound check as well. Can everyone hear me clearly? Just do the little raise hand button if you can. Perfect. And then if you want to try typing in the chat, I just want to make sure that's popping up for me too. Awesome. Thank you so much. Yes, as I said, grab a pen and paper, grab water. We're going to be covering a lot of content and strategies. If I start going a little too fast, just type in the chat that I'm going too fast. I'll try to slow down. But I really want to do my best to make the time that we have together as valuable as possible. So before I get into these things, you might be wondering who I am and what gives me the right to share all of these strategies with you. So is it okay if I share a quick story on how I got here and how I learned to have really a more loving, connected relationship with other people? Because people look at me today and they think their relationships are really easy for me. They think, oh, she's got such an easy time with love and relationships. She's all extroverted. She's all happy and fulfilled and successful. But I haven't always been this way. I remember about 10 years ago, I was in the midst of considering divorce with my husband because I was really, really frustrated with him. We'd lost the spark, and even though we weren't fighting a lot, when we did, it was really, really painful. So I wasn't feeling loved, right? I was feeling unwanted. I was feeling unsure. And I wasn't really sure how my relationship had gone from so great to so hard in such a short period of time. So I don't know, can any of you relate to feeling sadness in a relationship? Maybe disconnected or frustrated or confused? Is there anyone here who can relate to anything like that? And if you can, please type yes in the comments. I'm just going to check. I know a couple of people had problems signing in, so I'm just making sure. Okay, great. So if you feel any of those things, just type yes in the comment box. So it's not until I started learning and working through these 7 keys, which I'm going to be introducing, plus using emotional freedom techniques, which is also called EFT or tapping, which will be taught a little bit later today when my life started turning around. And I was really able to connect deeply with Jake, with my ex-husband, my former husband. And we were able to open and honestly discuss our challenges. So even though we chose divorce, and this is him on the screen, this is us together last year during COVID, we formed a bond that still exists today. And other people look at us and say, like, how did you do that? Like, how did you make that happen? How do you have such an obvious care for each other, even after all that you went through? Let me ask you a question. How many of you would like it if you had a strong relationship in which there's great communication and chemistry? Where you enjoy spending time together? Where you feel the love and the support and the happiness and your heart feels open and there's like this unconditional connection and fulfillment? How many of you like the sound of that? Hit the hand raise button if you want to learn how to do this for yourself. Now, whether it's in your current relationship or one that aligns better down the road, you can have that. But first, if you're ready, I'm going to introduce the relationship Nexus model. Does that sound good? All right. So to back up a quick bit, this free course is going to be the introduction of a series of 5 classes to help you move through pain and inertia and some of the stuck places that you're feeling in your relationship to help you make that decision. I'm going to give you tools to help you make and move through this very, very quickly. Because if a romantic relationship, well, if any relationship is at all, but especially romantic relationships are meant to end or continue, it'll do what it needs to do. Right? So in this course, I have no judgment. I have no, link to, or should you stay, should you go? I'm not going to tell you what to look for. I'm not going to tell you how to be with your partner. What I'm going to do is give you tools to help you come to resolution, to get you out of this holding pattern. Because what I often see is that people have been stuck in this holding pattern for years, months, sometimes decades. So in the Nexus Point model, where you're going to figure out how you came to this point in your relationship in the first place and how you're going to transform your life from it. So by this place, what I mean is like, you've had it with the state of your relationship. You're stuck and you're frustrated and things just can't take it anymore, right? So a Nexus is the point or of connections that link two or more things. So it's a really central and important point. So with this model, we're looking at all the things that got you to this point in your relationship. The connections between each layer I'm going to lay out and the series of events in your personal history can be exposed so deep healing can happen for you. These patterns can be broken, movement can occur. So it'll assist you from going from where you are to where you want to be with integrity, with compassion, with empathy, and at a pace that'll be faster and more efficient than would have happened otherwise. Okay? So whether you leave your current romantic relationship or have a fabulous reconnection with your partner, or a profoundly powerful completion that allows you to move on a path that's more right for you, that's the purpose of this course. So you can take this on your own, you can share it with your partner and work through it with them if they're willing to do the work with you. All right. So the first challenge I see, let me back up a little bit. I also want to say that I'm going to use kind of the male-female pronouns and gender pronouns. I work a lot with couples that are of all genders, of all types of relationships, sexes, ethnicities, identities. I've worked with polyamory. I've worked with a lot of different things. So I just want to let you know that even though I'm using this male-female relationship couple terminology, I'm really just talking about whatever partnership that you are looking at yourself. In fact, you can apply these same principles or very similar principles to your coworkers, to your family, to your friends. Okay. So the first challenge I see in our relationships is that our childhood exposure, why is my PowerPoint not moving all of a sudden? So here are this key pivotal experience. And the first challenge is that childhood exposure and experience teaches us how we interact in our relationships for the rest of our life. So these key pivotal experiences start from ages 0 to 7, right? We're like little sponges and we're in this subconscious state. We're in these theta and delta brainwaves, which are similar to hypnosis brainwaves. And we absorb everything around us. how we should do relationships, how we should treat each other, how we feel love, how we receive love, how we give love, what kind of words you should use, how you should react to get the attention and the care that you need. So any highly disturbing or really emotional events, also from the ages 0 to 7, will also impact how you interact in your relationships for the rest of your life. It plays a key role in how you create your own well-being. So this can include everything from how you watched your guardians, your parents, and the adults you respected interact, all the way to the point of trauma. And so we talk about two different, quote unquote, different types of trauma, like big T traumas, which are life-threatening, abuse, accidents, and little t's, which are not life-threatening, but still have huge impacts like divorce, neglect, abandonment, the loss of a loved one, physical injuries, medical illnesses. Like all these things can really shift how we are able to give and receive love for the rest of our life. And they've had huge impacts on your brain and your nervous system and started conditioning you for these similar feeling experiences for the rest of your life, especially if it made you feel unloved, unwanted, unneeded, all of those kinds of things. So have you ever said or done something and realized that you sound like one of your parents? Has anybody ever had that happen to them? That's why it's really important when you look at this stage in your life. Imagine now, instead of reacting out of habit and your childhood training, instead of stonewalling, or instead of yelling, or getting mad, or withdrawing and getting quiet, feeling attacked or feeling unloved, that instead you acknowledge and you kind of choose how you want to show up in your partnership and how you want to show up. That's positive for you. Couldn't that prevent like hours and days and weeks in pain? Instead of having that conflict and really sitting with that conflict and mulling over it and worrying over it and what did I do wrong, or they're such a jerk, or whatever it is those experiences teach us, that we can just have a realization about ourselves and about that other person so we can communicate more clearly. So how many of you would rather feel calm than upset? So the second key, or the second layer that we work with, are the limiting beliefs. And these come often out of these key pivotal experiences. These are things like, I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. I'm not lovable. And it also comes from what kind of resources we have, right? Who is around, who is supporting us, who is helping us. Those kinds of things, right? Because, so think about it this way. So imagine right now you're an adult, you cut your hand wide open, right? You're bleeding all over the place. Well, you've got resources. You know how to pick up your cell phone and, call an ambulance if you have to. You know how to put a bandage on. You know how to wrap it up. You know how to drive yourself to the emergency room if you have to, right? You know how to ice it. You know how to hold, all these, you have all these resources, you have all these options. So a cut on your hand may be annoying or even a little bit scary, but it's not life-threatening. Now, a teen that cuts their hand might be annoyed or angry at themselves. Oh, look, I'm such a klutz, or now I can't play football, or I can't go do my thing. But they still have some resources, right? They might be able to drive themselves. They know how to call a friend at minimum. They definitely know how to, go bandage themselves up. What about that 7-year-old who cuts their hand? And nobody's around. All of a sudden, here they are. They're isolated. They're helpless. They may or may not know where the bandages are. They definitely can't drive themselves anywhere. They're bleeding. They're scared. And it starts setting that person up, that 7-year-old up for, oh my gosh, nobody's around. And all of a sudden, this thing that for an adult is no big deal is now a trauma for the 7-year-old. Now imagine a toddler cutting their hand. They don't even know what's going on. There's just excruciating pain. They're screaming, nobody's coming. All these things can set up belief systems about how we're loved, how safe the world is, how we're cared for, and what we need to do to survive in our own minds. So even something as simple as a cut can set up a limiting belief that impacts how we interact in our relationship. Because if I feel isolated and helpless because I cut my hand as a 7-year-old, and then I believe I have to do certain things or have people around in a certain way, or heck, I learned that, I'm isolated and helpless, therefore I'm going to compensate by making sure I can do it all myself. I'm not going to rely on anybody. You see how that belief can start impacting every single relationship I have, but especially my romantic partnership? So limiting beliefs could have come from anything. And you start having these ideas like, oh, nobody's there when I need them. You can't trust anybody. The world's a dangerous place. Money is hard to come by. There's scarcity. It's dangerous out there. It's dangerous in here. Have you ever thought something like that before, where you just realize that you have this idea about the world that really changes how you interact with it? So this is why emotional freedom techniques by EFT tapping is so great, because it actually not only uncovers, but it starts shifting those belief systems, those limiting beliefs in your brain. So that way now, instead of feeling like that isolated, helpless 7-year-old when I'm having an argument with my partner, now I can come at it with, I have all the resources I need. Now, how do I communicate what I need? So the next layer I want to talk about is the vibrational cellular experience. You're like, what is that? If any of you have seen Eckhart Tolle, he talks about the pain body. And in The Power of Now, he talks about in your body, and this is through science too right now, right? They're talking about somatic experiencing, is every emotional pain that you've ever experienced. So a lot of the emotional responses we have and automatically default to, whether it be sadness, fear, guilt. How do you respond when someone disappoints you? Start thinking like, oh, I feel guilty. I must have done something wrong. I better fix it. It's my responsibility. Or despair. Why do things like this always happen to me? Or anxiety. If I don't keep everything under control, everything's going to fall apart. So have you ever had periods in your life where you felt like nothing was going right? Like you're feeling angry or fearful or sad or anxious or feeling depressed? Have you ever felt strong emotions? That's why it's so important to explore these patterns in your current relationship. Because wherever you go, I hate to tell you, but like there you are, right? So whether you're dealing with this at work, in your relationship, with your family, with your friends, there's a reason why you resonate with this. And until you are able to clear that or have awareness of it for yourself, you're going to bring that into situations over and over and over and over and over again. Right? So then the fourth key, excuse me, is negative relationship experiences. So another challenge that we face is that even when we're looked at, okay, this vibration, and I'm clearing the stuff when I'm young, so we have a history of some relationship, whether it be a partnership or a marriage or a family relationship or a coworker relationship, or even like one of your good childhood friend relationship that has caused us, pain or stress. So can I give you all a personal example of how these four keys kind of work together? You can type yes in the chat if you want, or nod your head or whatever. Okay, thank you. So this is how these four keys work together for me, right? And how it impacted my life. So I'm very, very close to my dad. I love him to death, right? And when I was young, he was very, very supportive. And we'd play ball. He'd teach me how to throw balls, and he'd teach me how to do things. And he was always encouraging, like, good job, you did that really great. Here's how you can do it better. Wow, you did really great on that math test. I know you're brilliant at math. Here's how you can improve. You are such a good reader. I'm going to have you read to your sister because that will make your skills even stronger. Sounds amazing, right? Somewhere along the way, in my brain, because of the influence of how I interacted with people when I was 0 to 7, how I saw people treating each other, what my teachers said, what I heard other people say their limiting beliefs were. You have to be perfect or you have to do it right. I turned that positive reinforcement that my dad always gave me into, you did everything great, but you can always do it better, which then translated into, you're not good enough. So then I go into a relationship, a 6-year relationship in my 20s. And every time we had a conflict, it was because in my mind, I wasn't doing it good enough. I wasn't getting home soon enough. I wasn't running my business well enough. I wasn't giving enough time. Maybe I didn't do this right. I didn't do that right. I didn't talk to him right. I didn't communicate right. I just didn't do it well enough. So the relationship was all the stuff falling apart was obviously my fault. It had nothing to do with him being an alcoholic or a drug addict or emotionally abusive, right? So this is what can happen is we get in this slippery slope of one limiting belief or one vibrational cellular experience or some bad relationships in the past all of a sudden inform how you deal with these other relationships. And it changes who you are as a person. And once you can clear that, right? Once I realized what was going on, I don't feel that way about myself anymore. And I definitely don't bring that into relationships, right? But do you see how just one thing that I kept hearing over and over and over again changed in my own mind and became something negative that created conflict and these limiting beliefs in my own life and my own relationship? It affected a lot, right? So have you ever been in a relationship where you felt overly responsible? Or where you're in a relationship where someone else felt responsible for everything? So imagine that instead of this pain and the struggle and the heartbreak from how we're looking at life, which then informs how our energy is, it informs how the thoughts and the beingness and how we show up in our relationships. When we're on this automatic cycle without consciousness around it, it's going to influence every single interaction we have. It's going to influence how well we think we're doing in our career. It's going to influence how well we think we're doing in sports. It's going to influence the level of peace and harmony and joy that we're able to have of our lives because all of our closest relationships are mirroring our own shit back to ourselves. Right? It's projection, right? They're doing this, they're doing that. Those Republicans, those Democrats, those people. Doesn't matter. If you're sensitive to it, it's something from inside of you that can be shifted. Doesn't mean that you think everything's all right and happy and rainbow bright for the rest of the world. That's not what it does either, right? But at least then instead of being triggered and angry all the time, you can look at it with clarity and choice and boundaries and say, no, this is not right. But it doesn't set you on the spiral of anger for weeks, months, days, whatever it is for you. So now imagine you clear these 4 and you take the tools from this upcoming course and not only work on your current situation, this current relationship, because it's going to help that, but also will break the cycle of this showing up in all the rest of the areas of your life. Because you don't have to keep repeating this stuff over and over again. So now you can be confident and strong. So feel that. What is that like for you? To feel confident, strong, self-assured. You know what you want. You know what you need. And you're able to easily and lovingly receive that from the other people in your life. Wouldn't that be great? So the 5th one is negative cognitive manifestations. What does that mean? Well, let me give you a little bit of an example again. People don't usually come into me and saying, you know what? My partner the other day, I was trying to talk to him about my budget and he walked out of the room. And that, when he does that, it makes me feel unlistened to. Instead, what happens is people come and say, my partner never listens to me. They always forget to do this. They don't find me attractive anymore. He doesn't find me attractive. She doesn't find me attractive. Like these big generalizations about how things are and how they will be, because this is just who that person is. Right? And then that links also to this vibrational body, right? These long-term effects that form because we start believing these things that we're saying over and over again. If I'm always like, my partner never listens to me. He never listens to me. He never listens to me. What's going to happen is I'm going to talk probably in a tone that makes him not want to listen to me because he's annoyed that I'm talking to him in that tone. And it's going to make him go, oh God, there she is talking in that tone again. And I'm going to be like, see, he never listens to me. And he's thinking the same, like he's having the same cognitive thing on the other side going like, she's always nagging at me. And so here we are with these ideas about how it's always like this. And these generalizations actually become habituated over and over and over, and they become your reality. They become your physical and energetic space. So have you ever done something like, let's say you're with a partner and you come home late at night, you've been out with your friends, you got home, you meant to be home at 11, you got home at midnight, you're a little bit like, uh-oh, they're going to be really, really mad. Now you're already anticipating that mood your partner is going to be in when you open that door. But they might not be that time. Like you don't have any evidence. You don't have any proof yet. And so what happens is our cortisol, our stress hormone levels rise, which adversely affects our body systems, right? Our heart rate goes up. We have more heart disease. We're now in a fight flight state. We're not digesting properly. We have a hard time sleeping. And all of this long-term cortisol can also lead to long-term sadness, disappointment, hopelessness, feelings of depression. And then all of a sudden you're resenting your partner. And then sometimes we turn into things to try to numb that or to try to shift that, like addictions, like infidelity, like internet, like working out too much, like working at our job instead of paying attention to our relationship. So have you ever caught yourself fantasizing or making up stories about how another person's going to relate to something? That's why it's so important to work on these two things together. Because wouldn't it be great to stop worrying about how another person in your life is going to react to you? Like, that'd be amazing. Like, just how much calmer, how much happier, how much more joyful is your life going to be if it's not consumed with the worry about what everybody else is going to do, think, and react. Whoops, I keep trying to change my slides and then my thing goes up. So the final spot, number 7, is this relationship nexus point. This is where many of you have shared that you're at right now. You're at your breaking point. I don't know whether to stay connected or whether to break this connection. And you hear yourself saying things like, I just can't take it anymore. Something's got to change. Yet at the same time, you might be still thinking like, but I still love him. Or maybe I should try one more time. Or I can't let that go. Or heck, my parents were married for 45 years. What is it going to look like if I get a divorce? Or my church says I can't get a divorce. And then you start feeling stuck. And one day you're like, that's it, I'm out of here. And the next day you're like, nah, this is not so bad. Probably something I can do. I guess I'd rather have that than nothing. Something's better than nothing. I'm getting something out of this relationship, some support, some community, some connection, something. Have you ever had any of those thoughts? So this is not the time to be controlled by the early patterns you develop when you're young, right? So this is where our work together begins. And this is what we're going to do next with the emotional freedom techniques. So imagine now that instead you have this understanding, the confidence, the clarity, and can create communication and calm in the relationship that helps everybody. Wouldn't that be amazing? Right? So I want to teach you now some emotional freedom techniques. So this is EFT tapping. If you go into the Eventbrite online page, like the online resources, you also have an actual script on how to do this with the tapping points. If you need it, like if you're watching this on video and maybe you didn't sign up for the class, maybe you're watching this later and I've just sent it to you, you can always reach out and get those tapping points from me. You can go to my website, touchremedies.com, and get the contact me and just let me know what you need and what you want if you don't have my contact information. But this lies at the heart of the work that I'm going to teach you and that we'll be doing together in the rest of these classes. So what this does is it helps actually shift the neurons in your brain. So that way you can clear all these past beliefs, you can clear all these past relationships, and really start stepping into your power. Right? So when you're angry, you can use this. When you're feeling worried, you can use this. When you're feeling anxious, you can use this. When you need clarity, should I stay or should I go? What is happening with me right now? Why can't I decide? You can use this technique. You can even use it for your fear of spiders. You can use it for a lot of things, right? Whatever you need to do. Okay. So I know a lot of you had already clicked on the disclaimer to come in, but we're getting cracked down a little bit. So I'm going to read a little disclaimer because, I gotta. So this information I'm giving you is not a substitute for counseling or medical advice. You are strongly encouraged to share your use of EFT with any mental health care professional you may currently be working with. The listening to or viewing of this information does not constitute a professional relationship with me or my company. It is considered an experimental self-help tool, and the information of this program is meant to inspire and educate its audience, which is you. We'll use the terms EFT and tapping interchangeably, and I'll also be using a little bit of matrix reimprinting, perhaps, which is a little bit of something that I do in my work individually. If you want to find out more, you can go to my website at touchremedies.com. There's actually a video on the science of emotional freedom techniques. But in the emotional freedom techniques, in the EFT worldview, we assume and we look at how most of life's challenges involve emotional, energetic, and cognitive blocks. In other words, belief systems. And how those big T, right, the life-threatening traumas, and the little t, the non-life-threatening traumas, which are equally as impactful. One is not stronger or more impactful than the other, but it changes, right? So EFT and tapping has over 100 published research studies supporting its effectiveness, and you can access those through the website as well. So what you can use tapping for is actually addressing anything that causes stress, fear, and other intense emotions like you're experiencing in your relationship conflict. You can even use it when you're on your own. So for those of you that are separated, you can use this for loneliness, isolation. Did I make the right choice? Why did they kick me out? Or why did they leave me? Why did I leave? Right? Whatever that feeling is, you can use that. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. So a really high level, quick, fast overview of EFT. And you can also go to my YouTube channel to actually take the full class on how to do emotional freedom techniques for yourself. It's a full hour class actually. So this is like super, super quick overview. So what you're going to do is you're going to start tapping on the side of your hand. And what I want you to do before we even get into this is as you're tapping on the side of your hand, I want you to just get comfortable. Find a place where you're still. And just notice, are there any body sensations you're experiencing right now? Start thinking about the current state of your relationship. How is your relationship right now in this time and space? How do you feel about it? So you've got an emotion coming up or a bunch of emotions. Name those in your head. How intense are they from 0 meaning non-existent to 10 meaning like, oh my gosh, this is like overwhelming for me. But also notice that body sensation. You feel a tightness in your stomach, a shortness of breath, clenching in your jaw. Maybe you're squeezing your toes. Maybe you're slouching over to protect yourself. Just notice, right? None of it's right, none of it's wrong. Just notice what's coming up for you as you contemplate your current relationship. And as you tune into that, just really be aware of how you're experiencing that, what you're thinking. Get that number in your head. How intense is all of that? And now I'm going to have you just repeat after me. If you're in a safe space, you're going to tap the points I'm tapping. If you're in a safe space, you can say it out loud. If you're not, or someone's around, you want to say it, to yourself in your brain or whisper it, that's fine as well. So tapping the side of your hand, doesn't matter which hand, you can even switch while we're doing this. I'm just going to have you repeat after me. So even though I'm feeling this intense emotion, contemplating my current relationship, I accept how I feel. Even though I have this intense emotion, and I feel it in my gut. You can say that even if you're not feeling it in your gut. It's like a tension. Makes me fearful. What's going to happen in my relationship? What should I do? I feel this tension in my gut. I deeply and completely accept how I feel. So even though I'm feeling all this tension in my gut, and it's linked to these emotions, the fear, the confusion, the worry, is this relationship over? Is it time to end it? Or do I want to fix it? Can it be fixed? And I feel it in my gut. I accept how I feel. Go ahead and tap the top of your head. This tension in my gut. Tap between your eyes, so kind of between the eyebrows. This tension in my gut. Now you're going to tap the side of your eyes, kind of the temple. You can do one side, both sides, doesn't matter. Tension in my gut. Now tap under your eye. One side, both sides, once again, doesn't matter. The tension in my gut. Under the nose. I don't know if this relationship is over. Under the mouth. Maybe this relationship is over. And I feel that as a tension in my gut. Under the collarbones. So if you find that soft spot in your collarbones, so you can tap it with both hands. You can tap it with one hand. This is one that we do like to do both sides if possible, or you can just do a fist in the center of your chest because it vibrates through your bones. This tension in my gut. Thinking about my current relationship. And under your arm. This tension in my gut. Thinking about my current relationship. Now just notice what's changed. Have the emotions changed? Did a thought come up, a memory? How's the feeling in your body? Is it more intense? Less intense? Has it moved? Sometimes when we suppress emotions in our body, tapping will actually make it a little more intense before it goes back down. If you're still feeling intensity, you can just tap your fingers together. Or you can just do another round. So just tap the top of your head. I'm still feeling this intensity. Between the eyes, feeling this intensity. Side of the eyes, I'm feeling this intensity. Under the eyes, I'm feeling this intensity. Under the nose, I'm feeling this intensity. Under the mouth, I'm feeling this intensity. Collarbones, I'm feeling this intensity. And under the arms, feeling this intensity. And if it still feels intense, just tap your fingertips together. In fact, you can tap any of these points anytime you're feeling any kind of emotional intensity. If you're worried, if you're frustrated, right? It's really interesting that sometimes when we're frustrated or worried, what do we do? Like, I'm so stressed out. Oh man, like, and you feel the tension in your chest. And, but we rub, we think about, we're thinking about things, right? We get our arm under here. So isn't that interesting? Like that sometimes we're just naturally trying to calm ourselves down. So that's not the slide I want. I'll leave it on there so you can keep tapping if you need to. But I'd like to ask you a question quick. So if you could have a clear answer on whether your relationship is over, if you could work with these 7 keys that impact your relationship, so whether you stay in your current relationship or whether you go and you find a different relationship down the road, wouldn't you like a closer, stronger, more fulfilling relationship? Wouldn't you like to enhance your awareness and your appreciation and your care and find the happiness and synergy so you can feel the bond of someone who's so committed to you, that you're so committed to? You have a passionate, intimate connection, that other people are envious of your relationship? How much would that be worth to you? To have joy and clarity and happiness in your relationship? Think about it. Would it be worth everything? What would it be worth? How much would it be worth to save yourself the cost of a divorce by realizing that it's your own stuff? And I'll tell you what, even if it's their stuff too, because it's never one-sided. We all know this, right? It's never one-sided. But when one person shifts, the other person has to shift, right? If you're always doing one pattern and the other person does the same pattern, we do this with our family members, we do this at work, right? There's this thing that we do when we get into this rhythm. This is how we do it, and this is how we interact, and this is what we've learned. And you shift that, your partner shifts as well. So how much would it be worth to save the cost of that divorce? Which, by the way, right now is running an average of $9,000 a person before you even split up your stuff. That's just for lawyer costs. So if you guys want, if you're interested, I can tell you about the opportunity to do just that. So raise your hand or type yes in the chat if you want me to tell you how to join the next level of the class. Because my goal really is to help people find love and connection. This is going to pause my screen sharing while I grab the link here. I want people to find love and connection and joy and all of that in their relationship, right? I want people, if they are able, I want people to be able to leave their relationship with joy and with love if they want, or to be able to stay and have that same thing. Great. Thank you, Spencer. So in the chat box, I'm going to put the link to the next class. I've decided to offer the next class for only $125, and that's going to include one personal one-to-one session with me. Because I've watched people, like, with this whole COVID thing and everything's changing in people's life, there's so much stress in relationships, and because my goal and my passion is to help people in their relationships, I want to offer this to you guys. So for those of you that are in my membership program already, this class is free. It's already part of your program. So don't sign up on the link. Don't pay again. It's already included. You've already paid for it in your monthly program. So don't worry about that. For the rest of you, use that link to sign up. There's only 8 slots available, minus the program members who are already, you guys should have gotten your emails already. You're already signed up for the class. So there's only 8 slots total, because I want to keep it small and I want to make sure that I can give time. So I'm going to wrap up here and then I'll shut off the recording and answer questions if people want to say them out loud. Otherwise, feel free to type any questions in the chat. While you're entering, those of you who are signing up for the class are entering the information, I also want to share this quote right now because I think it's a fun quote. If you try to get 1% better every day at your health, at your relationship, and at the way you treat people, or at your creativity, or turning despair into gratitude, that 1% compounds into an amazing person. So do that 1%. Take that one action, even if that's only 1 minute a day. Because I know for myself, when I keep growing and learning to be better at looking within myself and communicating with the people I love, it shifts everything that I do to positive. Right? So my question is, yeah, you can figure this out. You can figure out your relationship. You can leave, you can stay, you can do whatever, but how long is it going to take you to figure that out on your own? A lot of people tell me that they appreciate how I reach out, how I listen, and how I care. And like I said at the beginning of the class, I wasn't great at it at first. I've had relationships where it's cost me so much money seeing healers and therapists and all this stuff. I've had relationships that were tragic and that were angry, and it took me a lot of training to learn these tools. And I kind of wish I'd had a class like this back when I was 20, but I didn't, and so that's okay. But my question for you is this: do you want to do all that for yourself? Or could you take this moment to be that 1% and just take these next 4 weeks to work on yourself and your relationships? What if you could make years of progress in just this short time, right? Your mind might be talking you out of it like, oh, that's too much, or this is, but think about it. It's like the cost of a cable bill, right? What's going to impact you the most in your life? Fixing all your relationships, finding healing and joy, or paying your cable bill? You know what I'm saying? But anyway, I don't want to go on and on. I want to thank all of you for being here tonight. If you've signed up for the next class, I always give homework because I feel it's really important for people to have something to focus on to keep taking themselves to the next level. So the next level for the class next week is I want you to write down and bring specific recent experiences that have been frustrating for you in your relationship. So by that, I mean really specific circumstances. Like I had a fight with my partner last week about money, and it made me feel this way, right? Or I felt ignored. Or I tried to have sex with my partner and they shot me down and it made me feel like they don't care about me. Or my partner made this comment to me that made me feel this way, right? Not that anybody makes you feel any way, right? We're sensitive to things, so we actually feel that way because of a sensitivity inside ourselves. But that's the kind of stuff I want you to write down, okay? Because if you have those really specific recent experiences, we can dig a lot deeper and get to work a lot faster and clear more things more efficiently for you. So I'm going to stop the recording now and I'm going to open up the room. So once again, thank you very much. My cell phone number, by the way, that's my cell phone or my business number on the screen as well. So feel free to text me, call me if you also want to talk. And I appreciate everyone for being here and taking this time to really, for yourself, right? And for your future relationships. So, all right, I am stopping the recording.